This is Chiming In. 67, the intercept. It's one of the great moments in rugby league history.
And Les Johns was saying, quick, 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 quick. And he just heard his voice and threw it.
What was it like to be coached by the great Clive Churchill?
I remember sometimes we used to get beaten. All the journos would turn up at Redfern Oval to see what was happening, and Clive would have us out in the middle of the ground, and the press the next day would say Churchill ravished his players last night for 20 minutes and give them a real dressing down.
Telling jokes?
Yeah, he was just telling jokes. And in those days we didn't have doctors, but there was always a box there. You had to treat yourself. And in the box there was smelling salts, scissors, bandages. I took the girls down to the pontoon. When we got down there, it was all on fire down there, and I couldn't go back. So I said, "Quick, get on the pontoon." That's right. Judy's hair was on fire, and like all embers. And I kept wetting her hair, and then my hair was on fire, and I kept wetting hers. And
Change of pace, Bob. Did you ever get sent off in your career?
And the referee said, "Off." And I said, "You can't send me off, mate. I'm the captain." He said, "Get off." So I was walking off. All these pommy kids are on the cage, and they're all spitting at me, and I've got gollies all over my face. And I didn't make out that I didn't wipe it off. I thought, well, that's nothing to me, you know. When I got in the dressing room, I couldn't wait to scrub my bloody face off.
Bob McCarthy, welcome to Chiming In.
Chiming in, eh? I knew you'd make it one day, Chimes.
Thanks, Bobby.
Do people know why your chiming in's all about?
They know about my nickname.
Yeah, where it come about?
Yeah, they know I used to chime in the back line. I actually used to play rugby league and rugby union with your son, Darren.
At Marcellin College, yeah. Darren told me the story. He said, I said, what do you call chimes for? And he said, well, he always used to sing out, Darren, I'm chiming in. And he said, he looked around, he said, by the time you would have got there, he said, the game would have been over, so he used to take off himself.
Yeah, I wasn't real good at it, but I was a trier. A bit like yourself, Bobby.
That's all you can do, mate. Do your best.
Listen, everyone knows I do my research, thorough research. Yeah. And I kicked off by Googling your age yesterday when I'm doing my research. And it came up 79, but I've since found out you're 81. Yeah,
that's correct, yeah.
What's the go there?
Well, I was born in 1944, and apparently on Wikipedia, was it Wikipedia?
Yeah.
I'm not too au fait with all these new, what's the name, cast and all that, but apparently they got me down as born in 1946, and I was born in 1944. And they got my middle name as James, my middle name is John. I'm Robert John McCarthy, born 5th of the August 1944, but Wikipedia have given me 2 more years, so, and they give me another name. So,
Bob, you're in good shape. You've actually let yourself go a little bit, haven't you? How do you keep so healthy and fit?
Well, I still go to the gym and that. I still do a couple of days a week with Suttons. I take cars to they're just out of Sydney, like Newcastle or Wollongong or wherever, and I'm talking to people, you know. I'm not sort of locked up at home, and I do a couple of crosswords a day. So, and as I said, I go to the gym. I don't do much in the gym. I just do mainly to keep my heart going. But whilst I keep doing that, I'm fingers crossed I can get away from that big D word.
Now, mate, yours is a fascinating story. I'm looking forward to finding out about your journey when we talk today. But take us back to the very beginning, your upbringing. Where were you born, and what was it like the early days for Bob McCarthy?
Well, I was born just up the road here at St Margaret's Hospital. It's closed down now. Like a lot of people, I was born there. We were raised in Redfern. We went from Chelsea Street to Dowling Street to Keepos Street. The old man was trying to, we didn't own the house. My old man was always trying to beat the what's the name bloke, the owner for the rent man every Monday, and we finished up at Keepos at the end there, and along the way we were in South Sydney territory, and I didn't follow much about it at the time. I used to hear the name Churchill a lot, and I didn't really. I was got mixed up with a Churchill from England, and then all of a sudden I started following it, and then.
So, what age would you pick up footy? What age did you play?
Well, I started playing up in school when I was about 8 or 9 or 10, but I wasn't much good. They used to put me fullback just to put me in the team.
Right.
And then around about 12, I sort of got the bug, and I think it was 1954 when South won the comp against Newtown, and then I went over and had a run with Chelsea United, who trained up in Moore Park, just up the road from where I lived. And they had a lot of sides that were winning a lot of premierships, and I played in that when I was 12. I played in the under-15 comp, and I remember we went for undefeated. I only played a couple of games that year, and we played Redfern United in the grand final, and we were getting beat 5-4, and we got a penalty with a couple of minutes to go. And our goal kicker, who you would know, Tassie Stavrianis, come up, and he was captain of the New South Wales Schoolboys, to take the kick, and it would have been my first premiership. And he came up, and it was right in front, and you wouldn't guess what happened. He sprayed it. We got beat 5-4, and then next year I had one more year with Chelsea. Then we found out this new club. There used to be a Cleveland Street Olympians, and they disbanded, and a new mob had the same colours and all that type of stuff, and they were called Moore Park Juniors. Mm-hmm. And the reason I went there was because everyone used to give you jumpers and socks, but Moore Park give you the shorts too. Right. And being, when no one had any money back in those days, I sold out for a pair of shorts, and I used to wear them everywhere. Yeah. I'd take them to the movies and wear them after school. I'd come home and put them on and go up the park, Moore Park. That was our backyard. Run around there with my shorts on, and I stayed there for a couple of years where I made Jersey Fleet come in 1961, and I was lucky enough to make that side, and Ron Coote made that also. He was the captain, and we went to, we were the first side to go overseas. And from the juniors, we went to New Zealand, and we played the sides over there, and we beat them pretty easy, and come back, and next year we tried out for President's Cup, and I got there late we're trying out at Mascot Oval, and there was myself, Ron Coote and Gary Stevens going for the lock position, and we're all 17, like under 21 comp. And anyone with any brains would have just put us in the back three. But because they'd won the last 2 or 3 and the second rowers and the lock that was there, they kept them in for looking after, for winning the 3 previous years. I think they won about 7 in a row.
The 2 of you missed out.
2 did. Anyway, I got there late. I had my push bike, and I got there late, and I was getting beat at half time by Balmain. And Ronnie played the first half, and I think Gary might have played second row, or might have put him in the centres anyway. I could hear the coach saying, Clemmy Kennedy, he was the coach, he played for Australia back in 1946. He was saying, get rid of him and all that, because Coop was so good. And one of the selectors was Wally Stigg. He was from Kenzo, where Ronnie played, and they were saying, I've got no dis. I could hear them all talking. I felt like saying, well, you make up your mind, because I want to go back to bed. You're not going to pick me, I'll play next year. I had another 3 or 4 years in President's Cup. Anyway, they said, he's hitting Joel Jack Kelly, and the selector said, he's here, give him a run. Well, I went out and had one of those games. I think I scored 3 tries and set up a couple. Yeah. And when it was over, we sort of sitting in the dressing room, and I was sitting alongside Ronnie, and he had his head down between his knees, and I said, we got in, mate. And he said, I didn't get in. I said, you would have got in. He said, no, they didn't pick me. And then I could hear the Kenzo selector screaming out the front, he's undisciplined, he shouldn't be here, and all that, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, lo and behold, I got picked, and we won the President's Cup. Oh. And at the end of the year, the game plan was for me to go in the President's Cup the next year, and we went down to play against Illawarra under-21s, who were captained by a bloke called Graham Langlands, who the day before had played for New South Wales against England out here at the cricket ground. And I remember I was the lock and Ronnie was the second row, and Clemmy Kennedy said to me, look, watch this bloke, watch the fullback. He said, he's only skinny, but he's got a big sidestep. And I said, which foot is it? He said, which foot is it? And then no one said no. Yeah. So I said to Ronnie, or Solid as we all call him, you go across first and I'll cover you inside in case it's, we think it's a right. If he comes off the left, you force him and I'll get him inside. So anyway, we went bang, and you wouldn't believe it. They won the scrum, went across the back line. Cheng come up in the back line, and then he went whack with his sidestep, and it wasn't a sidestep, it was something out of this world. Yeah. It was a loud noise, it was like whack, and we thought, gee, what a sidestep. And we turned our back to go back and get him the other way, and he went crack off the right foot. And we thought, geez, no one said he had So he went back the other way, and it was like catching the sheep. We both sort of got him right in the corner and just bunged him over the sideline. And after the game, I think it was a 6-all draw, after the game, he come up and he said to me, you're very good, going to be a good player and all that type of stuff. Yeah. And we went back to Illawarra Leagues Club, and he was drinking and I wasn't allowed to drink because I was underage, and Ronnie, and we come back to Sydney, and the next year South I got a phone call to say come to training. So I think the game plan was for me to play second grade because South bought a lock from Queensland, from Newcastle called John Sattler, who had carved up the pommies when Newcastle played England up there at Newcastle. And Sats was a lock, and I think the game plan was for me to be second grade all year and grow into the grade and sort of come up the next year. Anyway, Sats being Sats, first game, I think we played Manly. And Sats was in the first grade and I was in the second grade, and I think I had a pretty good game. And Sats done what Sats normally did. He belted someone and got sent off. Yeah. So the next week at training, I've walked in and then a lot of guys were saying, "Oh, well done, well done, well done." And I'm thinking, it was only second grade, you know, and well done. And then I saw my brother up against the notice board where the sides were, and he said, "You made first grade." And I said, "Me?" And I said, "Yeah, you're in." So I played there all year.
How old were you?
18.
Right.
19 towards the end of the year.
But what was it like? The game was brutal back then. We've seen footage and heard the stories. Was it intimidating? Were you scared? Were you nervous?
Well, it was pretty hard in the juniors. I mean, Alexandria Rovers and all them, if you couldn't fight you, they wouldn't pick you in the side and all that. Waterloo Waratahs, all them sides, Redfern United, Chelsea United, they had good like street fighters and all that. And I just sort of become accustomed to it. But I did get clipped around the ear a couple of times just running to rucks because there's no TV back in those days. And I remember sometimes like some blokes would test you to see what you're like, and then if you come back at them, they'd try to drop off you. And I'd known many times John Sattler when we were back into a scrum, Sattler said, "I just shortened that bloke up for you over there." And I said, "Oh, what happened?" He said, "Oh, he give you one in the tackle over there." He said he should change you. And I said, "Oh, thanks, mate." So he done that to a lot of blokes, but he didn't. He didn't do it just for the sake of that. Like he just loved hurting people.
Yeah, and mate, it was the beginning of a fantastic era for the mighty South Sydney Rabbitohs. I think you won 4 competitions during your time there. There were some magic moments. I guess we should start with 1967 v Canterbury and the famous Bobby McCarthy intercept try. Take us through that.
Yeah, well, there was one before that. There was a 65 with a record crowd.
You were sitting on the roof of the grandstand.
Sitting on the grandstand, and I was lucky enough to make that game.
Right.
Like, we used to leave. I was living at Redfern there with Judy. I just got married, and we were living in Lawson Street. And the game plan was for Judy and her mum were going to leave at 10 o'clock to go and get a seat in the grandstand because no one knew what the crowd was going to be. Yeah. We'd beaten St George 3 times that year. We beat them twice in the comp and once in the pre-season. So I think the crowd expected all these young whippersnappers to overturn all these superstars, you know. And so we left at 1. I was driving and Judy's father jumped in the car with me, and normally we were at a cricket ground at 20 minutes. Well, as we left, we come up into Cleveland Street from down at Regent Street there, and we're just creeping along. And it got to 1:30, then it got to 2, then it was going down to 2, and as we're coming down towards 2:30, we're coming down to the Bat and Ball Hotel, and there's a copper there in the middle of the road, directing cars not in the Moore Park side, the what's the name, the northern side, that was full. He was putting them into where the Free Hills were. Right. So he's putting them there, and I said to the copper, or the policeman, I got to play. It was about 20 to 3 or something. Wow. And he said, put your car right there, and when you see the car park, there's a big oak tree there, and I drove in and parked under the tree, and I took off. I said to Judy's father, I'll see you later. And I'm running through, and all these people are coming back, and they're saying they didn't know who I was. I was just a 19-year-old kid, 20-year-old kid. And I kept running, and they're saying, you won't get in, you won't get in, it's full. And I come to Anzac Parade, and I thought there was a big crowd milling out trying to get in. Yeah. So I forced my way through them. And it was just about 10 to 3, and got inside the gate. And Bernie Purcell was there, he was the coach. He said, where in the FNL you been? I said, it's a long story. So that was my preparation for a grand final. Wow. Then we went and got dressed, and I come out and I saw John O'Neill and Bobby Moses had tears in their eyes, and they were tough men. And I said, what's the matter? And they said, I've never seen so many people come and watch us play football. Wow. And we saw them up on the hills, and they're all around the ground. Yeah. Anyway, we only got beat 12-8 that day, but if we'd have played another half hour or something, they still would have got us. There was 2 St Georges we found in that year. That there was one that plays during the year, and there's one that plays in grand finals. And We got the one that played.
And that would never happen. They'd never let people climb onto the roof of a grandstand and sit
Well,
there.
Peter said he got up there in Mabozo. Well, Peter Peters wasn't a little bloke.
Yeah.
And they said they got up by the what's the name pipe?
The drain pipe.
The drain pipe.
Right.
Well, trying to absorb it and pull the thing out and kill all them people underneath him that would have been coming up behind him. Just imagine the weight.
67, the intercept. It's one of the great moments in rugby league history, in rugby league grand final moments history. Take us through the intercept try against the Bulldogs.
Well, they had the ball, naturally, and I could see him. I was on the left-hand side with Brian James, the winger, and I could see him moving across to the middle of the ground to bring it back, and I could see Les Johns coming up to make extra man in the blind to try and outflank us. And I said to Brian James, come and move up. I said, Johns is coming into it, so we're going to try and chop him off. And as I was moving up, their hooker, Colin Brown, got stuck in the back line. And Les Johns was saying, quick, 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 quick. And he just heard his voice and threw it. Now, I moved up to tackle Les Johns, but as he didn't see me, like if he'd have run to me and drew me, I would have knocked him over. And he would have given the ball to Johns and there'd been an overlap, they would have scored. But he just threw the ball to where he heard the noise.
Ever any chance of getting run down?
Well, I put my hamstring as I went over the 22-metre line, but the adrenaline got me over the line and I got up, and by the time I walked back up the other end, it seized up on me. And I didn't know I was going to get off the field. And I said to Johnny Sattler, I've done my leg. He said, no, you only cramped up. I said, no. I said, it's gone. So if you see video of me the 2 weeks before we beat St George to get in the grand final, I had it all strapped up. Right. So it must have been a bit of a niggle. It was raining. Anyway, I come into the dressing room and I said to Clive, I'm off, mate. I'm gone. My hamstring's gone. He said, no, you got to go back out. I said, I'm gone. He said, no. He said, Cleary's gone too. And Cleary had a groin problem, and in the rain, he's aggravated again. And he said, well, we can't hide Cleary on the wing, but we can hide you in the forwards. So they put Greg Norgard into 5'8", Jimmy Lyle to the centre and pushed the centre out to the wing, whereas me, I went dummy half in general play, and Alwyn Walters went back to second row because he was a second row playing hooker anyway. Yeah. And when the scrums came down, he went into hooker and I went back to second row and pushed in the scrum. So that was a game plan, and you wouldn't believe it. There was that many gaps in the second half, and I was dummy half, and I just couldn't go. Yeah. I'm thinking, look, they had Merv Hicks and Kevin Ryan, and whilst they were brutal sort of players, they did get tired. And I could see them gasping for breath and all that, and I'm thinking, I'm going to go here. And as I went to take off, I could feel my legs, so I'd pull back, and I used to give the ball back. But that was mainly it. You
mentioned the name Churchill earlier. What was it like to be coached by the great Clive Churchill?
Well, we're all looking forward to it, naturally enough, like being a local hero. Clive wasn't what you'd call a sort of a coach like Harry Barth. Like, he'd go for all the technical stuff and all that, and it was good to get with Harry for night time, and he'd get pepper and salt shakers and hot sauce and tomato sauce and make out defence and opposition and show you where you should go and where they go and how to put a bloke through a gap. And whereas Clive used to just tell a couple of jokes. He knew we had a good side. Yeah. All he'd do was just put the cream on the crop, on the cop. Anyway, I remember sometimes we used to get beat, and all the journos would turn up at Redfern Oval to see what was happening, and Clive would have us out in the middle of the ground and in a circle. And for people that didn't know, Clive was a taxi driver, so he used to get a lot of jokes during the day. And we used to say, "You got any jokes, Clive?" And he'd be out there telling us all these jokes for about 20 minutes. And the press the next day would say, Churchill ravished his players last night for 20 minutes and give them a real dressing down.
Telling jokes.
Yeah, he was just telling jokes. I mean, one day there we played Norse, and we had about 12 out of the 13 played City Country the day before. And wherever we were on the table, Norse always used to give us a towel up, or we'd just win. And everyone else was beaten by 30 or 40. Anyway, this day we're pretty sure we had 12 in there in first and second grade in the City Country, and we played North at Redfern Oval. I remember we come in at half time and they just in front, and we thought, he'll give us a bit of a bake here. And he come in the dressing room and he just went like that. He just shake his coat and used to say, "You just can't play." Then turned around and walked out. Yeah. And we all looked burst out laughing. And Sattler got up. He could see the dressing room had to be better than that. So we got up and he said, "Okay, you know what he means? He means, well, let's get our fingers out and get back out there." And we went out there and we beat him in the second half. But Clive was like that. He wasn't really a coach. He was like a man manager.
You had a super side, didn't you? You had internationals playing reserve grade.
Reserve grade, yeah. Well, just the assembly line at Redfern Oval then was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, I come up first. Like for international, there was always Kevin Longbottom. He was as good as me and Ronnie in the juniors. And I come up first, and then there was Curdy, then there was Gary, then there was Georgie Piggins, Eric Simms, Paul Sate, Ray Brannigan. I mean, it just went on and on and on.
Yeah.
And I think South thought that it was going to go on forever. That's why they let all the players go.
Yeah.
They thought, we can't give any more money because they'll have to give everyone else the same amount and we'll go broke. So they said, go, thinking the assembly line was well, it did come up eventually another 10 years later. Like you had the Jimmy Dimmicks, Terry Hills, Jimmy Sedaris's, Ian Roberts, but South didn't have any money then. They couldn't afford them. So they were all playing at Braith and Astor. Yeah. They were all playing elsewhere.
You had the great Mike Cleary.
Mike Cleary.
Was he late for training one day?
Yeah, he was, as a matter of fact. It was actually, for a bloke that was the fastest runner in Australia, he was always late for training, and one day there he just didn't make it. And this was prior to him being, this is when he was in his single days. He was a male model. He was the first male model, and he was pretty good looking. As a matter of fact, when we had him and Wayne Stevens playing with us, we had the prettiest wingers in the comp. This particular day he hadn't trained, he didn't turn up, and we had the second grade winger was training in his spot. And the bell, there used to be the old Redfern Oval. There used to be a phone in the alleyway, and old Dave Wood, the old groundsman, used to answer the phone from the press or whatever to want to know who was in, who was out, and whatever. Anyway, the phone rang this particular day. I think it was the Thursday game, training, and the phone's gone, and Dave's got it, and he's picked up, and he said, "It's Mike Cleary here. Put me on to Bernie Purcell, who's the coach." So he's yelled out, "Bernie, Bernie, Bernie," and Bernie's come running over and said, "What's up?" He said, "You're on the phone." He's picked the phone up. He said, "Yeah," and then on the other end of the phone there was, "I'm on top of the world. I'm on top of the world." He said, "Who's this here?" And he said, "It's Mike Cleary, mate. I'm on top of the world." And he said, "I don't give a stuff where you are in the middle of the world." He said, "If you're not here in an hour, you're playing second grade in the weekend." Yeah. So we come training on the Saturday, and we said to Mike, he didn't come training. Yeah. Anyway, we said to him on the Saturday, "What do you mean you was on top of the world?" He said, "Well, you wouldn't believe it." He said, "I was at a function with being a male model." He said, "A Miss Universe was there, a girl from England." And he said, she just said to me, "You on your own?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, grab that bottle of champagne and come up to room 204 or something." And away he went. Well, you can imagine what the top of the world was when he was singing out to him. And Bernie didn't pick it up. He was more worried about the football part of it. We all copped it sweet. And
week in reserve,
and then funny thing, after that, Michael finished up meeting his first wife, Jan Cleary, who was a Miss Gold Coast.
Wow.
Yeah, and appeared on Bandstand as a singer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, she worked the Oceanic Hotel.
Yep.
Yeah, Michael found out she was beautiful. Yeah.
So 68, another premiership, and then 69.
You got to bring that up.
Yeah, we better talk about the Unlosable grand final. You were hot favourites against Balmain and lost the game. And the game's often talked about because Balmain used alleged stalling tactics and stayed down and slowed the game down. Take us through your recollections of 69.
Yeah, well... During the course of the year, they beat us and we beat them. So there wasn't much, like we had all the names, but they had all these young kids. And they were pretty similar to us in 65, like we were all the internationals and they were the young kids coming through with a couple of old hardheads in Davey Bolton and Peter Proven. Anyway, I think they beat us first during the year, and then we beat them the second time. And then in the semi-final, I think they might have premiers, and we beat them 14-13 or 13-12. Arthur Beetson got sent off. He punched Ronnie Coote and got sent off. So they only had 12 men, and we only beat them by a point. So we knew in the grand final that they were going to be hard, but we didn't anticipate the tactics they were going to use. And we thought, with the side we had, we're going to beat them. And then, we had internationals all over the place. Anyway, what they did was whenever we had the ball turned over to us, they laid on the ground, which you were told to do then, and the play would stop until the player got treated. Well, they were laying down before we haven't got the ball. Some of them, and I remember Johnny Sattler saying, make them get up to Keith Page.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm not a doctor, Sats. He said, I can't know if they're crook or not.
Yeah.
And blokes like Davey Bolton from England and Terry Parker, they finished up, they laid down that many times, they had come off with suntans, you know. But it was a good tactic because it just frustrated us. And then they just got their nose in front and they just tackle their life out of it. And
I recall you saying once that your prep was a little bit different. Was there a fight on that day?
Yeah, there was. I think Dennis Donahue, I think it might have been he or one of the other officials, they had one of those little portable TVs that just come out.
Yeah.
You know, just like a little,
Black and white thing.
What they call them now, high laps, what is it? A little TV, little computer things.
Right.
Yeah.
So you watched that fight?
Well, we watched that. Well, Lionel Rose was undefeated and he was everyone's hero. And he's fighting a bloke called Ruben Oliveira, who was a knockout specialist. He knocked everyone out. And we were sort of just sitting there, we're just watching it in our footy gear, just thinking,
Before the game.
Before the game. And Lionel's got knocked out in the first couple of rounds, I think it was. And everyone was sort of downhearted and we said, better turn on here. We're playing a grand final. Yeah. And we went out and we just didn't anticipate what they were going to do, you know. Wow. And it worked well. I mean, after that season, the league ruled that if you're down and injured, play will continue on. Yeah. And then a lot of them didn't go down after that. Yeah.
So the change in tackle rules in the beginning, rugby league was unlimited tackles. If you had the ball, you could hold on to the ball as long as you like. Yeah. Then it changed, and that I guess was the emergence of you becoming a wide running back rower. Forward, yeah. You technically changed the way the game was played. Yeah. Did someone help you with that, or did you work that out yourself?
No. Well, when I first came into South in 63, 64, Clive Churchill was the coach of Canterbury. They brought him down from Queensland where he was up there coaching, and he coached us. And I think out of the 4 games we played in those 2 years, I think 2 games we might have been short in the centres, and I played out there. And I scored a few tries, so he remembered that I wasn't sort of makeshift sort of thing. I could handle it. And when the 4 tackle rule come in, and I think we won the pre-season comp, but only just. And he just said, look, you and Cootie ain't getting enough ball because we're with a strike. And I said, well, what do we do? He said, it's going one forward and one thing, and then we've got to kick it on the 3rd tackle. He said, you ain't getting the ball. And he said, we want you to get it. So he said, you get on one side and Cootie get on the other, and we'll throw it around. And so we done that, and then I finished up scoring more tries than Ronnie doing it. And then
because there's space out there.
Oh, there was everywhere. Yeah. There was space out there. With blokes were getting tired, and plus I could sneak around when they knew where I was. You could always sneak around.
Quick too.
Well, I was lucky. I had the 2 big advantages back in those days. I was big and I was quick. Yeah. And good looking as you don't know. Yeah. But but we just done that, and we won all those comps, and then they went to 6 tackle rule, and I was into that many times, and I stayed there. And then when Harry Bath coached us in the Australian side, he just said the first thing, he said, you get out in the centres. Yeah. And if he didn't say it, Bozo used to say to me, Macca, get out here, you know. And so it was commonplace. And Gary Stevens was normally in the middle. I'd always work my way back to the middle, but not the first ruck, because there'd be a gap there. So I used to work my way back. Gary used to do a lot of tackling. Yeah. He'd do 50 tackles a game, but
you had 251 first-grade games and 119 tries for a forward. That's an incredible amount of tries.
Also, I scored a lot more in the pre-season. I think they should add them up, because it makes us look a bit...
You asked me before how many tries I scored during my career, didn't you?
I did, yeah. How many? Two. Did you? Yeah. Well, between me and you...
I won disallowed as well.
Well, between me and you, we would have scored 120 tries.
That's right. We could have. Let's fast forward to the grand final where John Sattler breaks his jaw, and your recollections of that incident and that game.
Yeah. Well, we knew
you've told the story before, but it's so worth listening to.
Well, we knew he was tough because when he first come down, he worked at where East Gardens is now used to be GMH. That's where they made all the Holdens. Yeah. And when he first come down, they give him a job out there on the engine, pushing the engines through. And we were playing Parramatta up at Cumberland Oval, the old Cumberland Oval. And I remember walking in to get changed, and he was signing an autograph, and I noticed he had a what's that on his arm? What are you going, like a broken hand? He had a broken hand. He had plaster on his hand. Yeah. He had plaster on his hand, and I said to him, what have you done? He said, oh, you wouldn't believe it. He said, I dropped the engine on my hand last night. He said, I broke me hand. I said, how long are you out for? He said, I'm playing. I said, you can't play with that. He said, no, I'll be right. So I've gone in the dressing room, and Cleary was there, and I said, you seen Sats? He said, no, what's up? I said, he's got his hand in plaster. He reckons he's playing. He said, oh, see what happens. And in those days, we didn't have doctors, but there was always a box there. You had to treat yourself. And in the box, there was smelling salts, scissors, bandages, all this type of stuff, you know. Yeah. So Sats come in the dressing room, and he got the pair of scissors, and he cut the plaster off, and he went out and played. And I think we won or whatever, and he played all right. And after the game was over, he was holding his hand. He said, oh, I'm getting sore. I said, what are you going to do? He said, no, I'll go back to South Sydney Hospital. Back in those days, South Sydney Hospital at Rosebery was going then. He said, I'll get it done up again. So we knew then he was a tough bugger. Yeah. So when the grand final come on, you can imagine...
Was it 70 or 71?
70. Right. 71 we played St George. Yeah. We can imagine the other dressing room. Like Manly had been beaten in all these grand finals and won a comp. But they'd been in a few and they just didn't have the firepower. Well, you can imagine Ron Willey up there who played or coached on that. Yeah. And he would have been saying to Billy Hamilton and Johnny Bucknell, don't let these bastards run the ruck. Stand up to them, and then we've got Fulton and all these blokes back there they might be able to get us home. You know, John McDonnell, they had some good players there. Anyway, you can imagine that happening. Well, we went on the field, and I was on Sats' side of the ruck, and Gary Stevens was with Lurch on the other side, and me and Sats moved up, and Freddie Jones, their hooker, ran to our side to dummy to Pogo to John Bucknell, dummied, and then turned it back the other side to Pogo Morgan. Well, me and Sats had moved up, and Sats was already up there, and he thought, well, I'm here, I might as well give him a bit of a touch-up. So Sats went whack and give him a bit of a clip, then turned his back, and I was sort of running back the position, and I heard whack. And Bucknell had followed him after he punched him. Bucknell was 6'3" or 4" or something, and he's punched Sats downwards, and Sats had, it would have been a normal mouth guard. Sats had a boxer's mouth guard, and if Watson had punched him normally, it would have cushioned the shock with his jaw. But because he was so tall and he punched him downwards, he ripped all the jaw away. So he broke it there, and he broke it in the middle. And Sats went to the ground and got up, and I looked at him. I said, "You all right, mate?" And it was all blood spurting all over the joint. And he went like they went to say, "Yeah, I'm all right." And all his jaw, there was a first floor and the basement level, and his jaw. And I thought, oh, geez. So I said to Lurch, he's broke his jaw. We better look after him till half time. And I said to Sats, you're going to go off? He went, no, I'm not going off. And he could still talk on that. Anyway, we'd gone on for half time, and we said, you've got to go off, mate. He said, no, I'm not going off. I'm right. Don't worry about me. I'll give you. Everyone was saying, you've got to go off, Sats. And he's saying, look, I'll give you one if you just leave me alone. Yeah. He went out in the second half, and they knew he had a broken jaw, and Pogo Morgan first up went crash with the terrific bloody coat hanger straight in the face, and we thought, well, that's it. We better bring Jim Morgan out, or whoever our reserve forward was. Yeah. And Sats got up and shook his head and got back in the scrum. We said, you're right. And he went, yeah. Then we won the game, and then he made that good speech, getting the trophy. He made that speech to the crowd.
Famous photos of him on your shoulders.
And then when the game was over, he called Johnny Martin, who was one of our officials. He said to him, we were up the other end, and at the other end of the dressing rooms, I don't know if you remember them, the dressing room up the other end had a bath in the corner. He said to Johnny Martin, go off and put the bath on for me. He said, while we done the lap of honour, we come back, and then he went in the dressing room. He got unchanged, and he went into the bath. And we're all sitting there, and we're all squirting champagne, all that as you do in the grand final, and all the journos were allowed in those days after a game, and they all sort of come in and asking everyone, Sats broke his jaw, because that night they were picking the Australian side to go to England, and he would have been captain. And they were saying, we don't know what you're talking about, So they moved around. So they moved over to where the bath was. And they're saying, John, you all right? You broke your jaw? And he's going, no, I'm all right. No. We can hear him talking. And we're thinking, how's he going to get out of this? Yeah. Anyway, when the door opened, he went to Churchill walked over and said, Clive, you better these blokes got to file their stories by 6 o'clock or whatever for tomorrow's. You've been an old journalist, that's what that's what.
Yeah.
You got to file their stories by 6 o'clock. He said, "I'll be out in a minute," and we all watched as the door opened, and he went to say hello, and it all fell apart again.
Yeah.
So they all raced off saying he's broke his jaw, and that was headlines all the next day. And I saw Sats when he come back from hospital. Said, "What was you doing in the bath?" He said, "I was trying to push it all back in again, so I could get picked for the Australian side, then make out I fell down the stairs or something when I got over there." And yeah.
Was there a tougher man than John Sattler that you said?
Well, I think a lot of blokes were tough, but he could just handle it. I remember one day there, he dislocated. You know how dark he was. He would come into the scrum, and I was playing second row with him, and he was white as a ghost. And he came to me, come to the scrum, and I said, "You all right?" And he went, "Oh," he said, "My elbow's killing me." And I looked down his elbow, and it was pointing out the other way. I said, "Mate, you got to go off. You dislocated it or broke." And I said, "You broke it." He said, "No, he wait till half time." So he's come in at half time, and he got over to the strap of the rubber. The rubber got it and just pulled it like that, apparently. And just by pulling it like that, it all goes back into place. And he went, "Oh," and then they strapped it up, and he went out and played again.
Wow. And
I thought to myself, geez, wish I'd have known that, because I'd have done that out on the field and saved him going through all that pain. So I thought you had to pull it back and crunch it back or whatever, but he apparently just got to pull it. And
off the field, one of the nicest, loveliest people you'd ever meet in your life.
He'd be sitting, we'd be all talking about the footy and all that. Yeah. He'd be over there with all the old ladies talking about their dogs and their cats and all that, and you're thinking, oh.
He was a dresser?
Yeah.
Singer? Loved singing?
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good singer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He'd always break into a song.
Yeah.
When he first come down, he used to drive back home the first year.
To Newcastle?
In the old Volkswagen. Remember the old Volkswagen, change the gears on the floor?
Yeah.
And back in those days, there was no freeway. You had to go up through Hornsby, work your way around all the mountains, come down into the Hawkesbury, go through the Hawkesbury, work your way up into the entrance, go all the way through the entrance, up to Newcastle, go through Newcastle, and used to get home at 1 o'clock in the morning. Imagine doing all that, changing gears. Well, he'd done that for 12 months.
Wow.
So it just shows what constitution he had, and he'd only been getting a couple of $1,000 back then. It just shows the constitution he had.
We talk about leadership today, how important it is in a team. He was a unique leader as well, wasn't he? I guess because he led by his action.
Well, when Clive first made him captain, everyone sort of, the press especially, said, "Oh, that's a bit silly, because he won't be out in the field that long, But we all respected what he'd done. I mean, the captain replaced was Jimmy Lyle, who was a beautiful player. Great. He was a good captain himself, but Sats just had that authority, that whenever he said something, you'd done it. And, Sats wasn't real good on technical stuff and all that. Yeah. Like we used to just mainly work it into the other side of the goalpost and shoot it back with me and Curdy or Kevin Longbottom coming in and trying outpace them. And that was more or less our game plan. And Sats used to just take it up, he's going to get hammered. But that was the game plan, and Big Lurch would take it up. Yeah. And then you were coming back, and even though when they get up from the ground, they'd see us walking back from scoring tries, they'd just put the pain away from where they just got hammered,
Do you have much memorabilia from your old days? Did you keep jumpers or photos?
No, I didn't. I kept the Australian jumpers. Darren, you would have known, Darren went to the same school as you. And Darren used to give away all my socks and my city jumpers and New South Wales jumpers. I don't think I got any of those.
Right. Got any photos at home?
I've got photos down in the garage. Yeah, there's a few photos, but Judy don't sort of think. She's worried about the next 20 years, I suppose.
Yeah.
There's nothing really hanging up about me. If I had my way, I'd be on every wall,
You mentioned Judy, and you mentioned you got married young, and she's been with you the whole journey, and a great lady. What was it like the Cauliflower Hotel in the old days when you?
Well, she hated it, like all the wives did, but that was where we met. Not me and Judy. This is where all the players met after a game. We had great camaraderie. Like the first graders drank with the third graders. No one was overawed. No one was in it. There's no big heads in the joint. You know what I mean? Like Mike Cleary at Free Internet played for Australian Free Sports. Yeah. He mixed with some bloke that was a Garbo or something. You know what I mean? There was no crap anywhere. Yeah. And we done that over a couple of days a week. And then blokes like Lurch and Bobby Moses and Ivan Jones, they drank there continually. They were card players. Yeah. And sometimes they wouldn't go home for a couple of days trying to win their money back. Yeah. And their wives would ring up Judy saying, "Is Bobby there? Does he know where John is? Does he know where Bobby Moses is?" And I said, "There's a cauliflower." Trying to get their money back.
Yeah.
Like people weren't allowed to walk out the pub.
Do you ever get in trouble there for staying too long?
No, like, a couple of times there you did, but she understood it, when it was football.
Yeah.
You'd say you'd be home at 8, but you'd get home at 9.
Yeah.
But with Judy, I used to just ring her up and say, I'm coming home now.
Yeah.
And by the time I'd get home, there was the steak there with the 2 eggs, the chips, the mushrooms, fried onions, all ready on the table.
Right.
Yeah.
Well looked after.
And if I knew if I didn't get home at the right time, that'd be in the garbage bin. Or the dog would have it.
Bob, I want to talk to you on a serious note about a tough time that you and Judy and the Coote family went through in 2020 with the bushfires in
Lake
southern
Conjola.
New Zealand, Lake Conjola, down there near Ulladulla. And you were down there holidaying with the Cootes, and the fires came storming through, and you had to fight for your lives. You're lucky to be here today.
Well, yeah.
Can you take us back and chat to us about that?
Well, going down, we should have turned around because the traffic kept stopping all the time, and you could see all the smoke everywhere. And I said to Judy, "We may as well go back," and she said, "Oh, I may as well keep going now. We're halfway there."
So was it the first day you were there?
Yeah, and we kept moving down, and then we could hear on the radio. I was had the races on, and they're saying, "Oh, there's fires breaking out here, there, and everywhere," and the traffic was just sort of creeping along. Anyway, we finally made it in there, and we just kept the eye on what was going on. The next morning, I remember I was, for some reason, I wanted sardines on toast. I said to Solid, "You got any sardines?"
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, there should be some there." I said, "I just feel like sardines on toast with some pepper and salt and bloody vinegar. I don't know what it was."
Yeah, craving.
So I'm sitting like that. Anyway, the phone's gone, and Ronnie said, "We've got to keep your eye on this bloody smoke. It's moving around." And the phone rang, and Ronnie picked it up, and someone said, "Get out now." So Ronnie put the phone down and said, "They just told us to get out." So we looked out the window, and we thought, no, John O'Neill's house was there, and you could see the smoke way back behind his place. And he said, "Oh, okay." So I got up and I went to go and get something, and Robin said, "It's on top of us now." And we walked outside, and then Ronnie said, "You go down." And then Ronnie had a pontoon down on the lake, and then he said, "You take the girls down there, I'll stay up here and I'll try and fight it with me." He had all this water all set up.
Right.
He had water in the pool. He had some gallons under his flower bed, 100,000 gallons under there or whatever. He had all this all planned.
Yeah.
And I took the girls down to the pontoon. And when we got down there, it was all on fire down there, and I couldn't go back. So I said, "Quick, get on the pontoon, and then we'll jump in the water." And the girls, we all jumped in there.
So how frightening is it at this time?
Well, it was frightening because it was there, and all of a sudden it was over your head.
Yeah.
Then it was all on fire there.
I assume it's gone dark too.
Yeah. And anyway, so we jumped in the water, and I said to Judy, "Don't go." Robin and Natalie, the daughter, they were too scared. They went out a bit further in the lake, and I stayed near the pontoon with Judy because she's not that good a swimmer and all that. And I said, she said, "Well, the trees might come down." I said, "No, we've got the pontoon. It was concrete." I said, "We'll just hide under there." Anyway, lo and behold, a guy come up. That's right. Judy's hair was on fire.
Yeah.
And like
There's
all embers. And
Yeah.
I kept wetting her hair, and then my hair was on fire, and I kept wetting hers. And
Ronnie's house is going.
we couldn't see anything.
Couldn't see anything,
Anyway, so this guy come up, Mark Halcrow, come up on his jet ski. He was down the end there with Les Hobbs' team, and Gary Stevens. They were down the other end of the lake, and they come up on the on his jet ski. And I said to him, "Don't worry about me. Take the girls." He said, "No, I'll get you on." He said, "Quick, hurry up." He said, "The embers are hitting me motor. It's liable to blow up."
Wow.
So I jumped on the back, and we took off and went down the other end, and then Ronnie worked his way down in the boat, and he said, "Oh, it's gone." I said, "What happened with the water?" He said, "Well, once the power went out, there was no there was no thrust."
Wow.
So he said it would just trickle out, the water just trickled out of the hose. So he just watched it go up, and John O'Neill's went just the top floor because when he built his house, he built the first floor, then he had all concrete floor.
Okay.
So that protected underneath, and the first floor went. Georgie Pickens was on the other side, and had come to George's front door, jumped over George's house, and burnt down the bloke that had Cronulla carpets. He was behind George and burnt his house down.
So if the jet ski doesn't come along,
We're still there, yeah.
you're still there.
I remember Georgie Pickens said to us, when you're in the water, did you think about the sharks? I said, it was the furthest thing from my mind. Because all it was, mate, the roar was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was like an aeroplane.
This is only 4 or 5 years.
2 or 3 years ago now, yeah. And Ronnie's had the house rebuilt, but Judy won't go back. She was traumatised by it, and she had to have, what's the name?
Why is it so many of those guys bought properties down there and headed down?
Well, I think they just wanted to get away, and I think Gary found it first. They bought 100. He had 100 acres or something. Gary Stevens, he had it, and then Lute said, "I'll buy 25 off you." And Georgie Piggins had 25, and Ronnie bought 25.
Wow!
And now Gary Stevens, Ronnie's daughter, bought that, so she's down alongside Ronnie in case anything happens to them. Now they can look after them, and their house went too because they were next door to Ronnie, up on the ledge. Yeah. And they had a beautiful big home, and that all went. Yeah. Her husband. Can't think of his name at the moment. He was doing up old cars and that, and he had them in the garage, and you walked up to the garage the next day and all that, and everything was just sort of melted on the ground. Wow! All these cars. Yeah. Oh, so sad. And Ronnie, you know, he had all these memorabilia, and Ronnie was real. He really respected all that. Like, if he met the Prime Minister, he'd put the photo up on the wall and all that. Whereas a lot of blokes go, "Oh, you know, it's only elbow." You know what I mean? Yeah. He loved all that, and all that went. Wow. All his jumpers and all that. Did you lose all your possessions at the time that you had with down there? I lost everything. I mean, luckily, my car got burnt on one side. Right. And I drove it back to Sydney. Right. And
did you have to borrow clothes to get around?
Oh yeah, when we were down there, yeah.
Because you couldn't get out for a few
days.
No,
everything was gone. Yeah. Well, luckily, when I went in to get things, I just got me watch and me money. So I wasn't worried about any clothes. Yeah. And when we were down the other end, Les Hobbs said, "Give me a pair of his shorts," and we stayed there that night, and in the morning it was all cleared and we could sort of work our way back. Wow. And we went back to Ronnie's, name there, and saw the thing was all burnt to the ground. Yeah. And he had a lot of stuff there. I'd like to know where all the money was, what he had. Because he still had a smile on his face, like it must have been under the ground there somewhere. Yeah.
I think as Aussies we underestimate, we hear about bushfires all the time, we see it on the news, but I think unless you've experienced it, I don't think you could imagine what bushfires are like.
Mate, when they say get out, you got to go. This come across that quick, and you can watch it jump over you. Just jumps. Yeah. Jumps over you, and then it'll catch its fire on there, and then it's coming back to there. Jumps over there, and it's coming back to there. It's not like it just comes straight that way on the ground.
Change of pace, Bob. Did you ever get sent off in your career?
I got sent off about 4 times, I think. I got 3 times here and once in England. Right. Once in England. I got sent off once here for swearing. Right. Swearing I was captain coach at South. And you wouldn't believe it, we were playing Balmain at Leichhardt Oval, and I scored a try right at the very end, and it put us in front.
Is this one of our 120 tries, is it?
Yeah, this is between me and you, the 120. and I was walking back, and Harry Eden never ever said anything about betting, you know what I mean, on the field. Yeah. And he walked up to me and said, Macca, don't do anything stupid. He said, you'll get man of the match. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, don't do anything stupid. He said, you'll get man of the match. So I didn't put 2 and 2 together. So from the kick-off, the ball bounced around and all that, and they got the ball back. And I forget who the side. Anyway, he sidestepped Gary Stevens, and Gary sort of reflex acting and put his foot out. Yeah. Well, the referee, I think his name was Don McDonald. Yeah. He said to penalty, and I said, Don, it was an accident. And he told me to F off. He said, F off. I said, only about 10 seconds to go. Yeah. And I said, oh, you can go and get so-and-so too. And he said, what'd you say to me? I said, you heard. Well, I used to watch Norm Provenett do that, and they used to just get them slap over the wrist. And he said, well, go. And I said, you're freaking kidding, aren't you? I said, it's full time. Yeah. Go. So I walked off, and I walked past Harry, and Harry said, you couldn't help yourself, could you? So I didn't know he's backed me to be man of the match. Yeah, right. I didn't know that. And he said, you couldn't help yourself.
So, mate, what was judiciary like back then? Because they wouldn't have had footage to replay and review. Oh,
mate, it depended on how your reputation was. If
so
you're Johnny
Sattler. Against theirs.
But it was Johnny Sattler, Noel Kelly, you're guilty. Right. Blokes like me, cleanskins and all that, they don't do it again. Young kids are watching you, and don't make them play like that sort of thing, you know. And I think I got 3 times in. I got sent off once in England, and I was captain this day. We were playing Widnes over there, and it was an all-in brawl. And in the first couple of minutes, I think we won 10 games in a row, and they're trying to put us off. And they're throwing coat hangers everywhere, and I got stuck in it anyway. I freaking got carried away, and the referee said, off. I said, you can't send me off, mate, I'm the captain. He said, get off. So I was walking off, and I had to walk through the cage to get off the ground, and all these pommy kids are on the cage, and they're all spitting at me, and I've got gollies all over my face. And I didn't make out that I didn't wipe it off. I thought, well, that's nothing to me, you know. When I got in the dressing room, I couldn't wait to scrub my bloody face off. Yeah. And I'm in the washing my face off, and all of a sudden the doorman opened the door and said, "There's another one that joined you." And Big Lurch come through the door, and he's got his hand over his face. I said, "What's the matter with you?" He said, I've headbutted a bloke after you. He said, and the bloke butted me back. And I took his hand away, and he has a big hole in his face, like he dislocated his cheekbone. Wow. Anyway, I said, "Oh, mate, you're in trouble." Anyway, we finished up winning the game. Wombat, the Pommies never heard of it. Graham Eady, Teddy Goodwin, Mike Cronin, Steve Rogers, and they carved them up with 12 men.
Reasonable players.
11 men. Anyway, Charlie Gibson came in after the game, and he said, I better take it to hospital, Lurch. And I said, I'm coming with you. And he said, you're going to go back and say a couple of words. I said, I'm not going back out there, so I'm coming with you. I said, so anyway, I got sent off once. I got 2 weeks, I think, for that. I know, sending off sufficient. And you wouldn't believe it, Paulie Sake got sent off during the week, and Gary Stevens got sent off. Yeah. The 3 South blokes went to go to Leeds to front the judiciary, and they all said, what happened? We told them what happened and all that. So they said, SOS, sending off sufficient.
You surprised me. I didn't think you'd have been the type of bloke who'd been sent off.
Well, I wasn't what you call a dirty player, but I didn't like anyone putting crap on me, you know.
Yeah. What was the media like back then compared to today?
Well, mate, you could trust them back then. Yeah. You know, that's come on Kangaroo Tours with us and used to drink with us. Yeah. And they never wrote anything anyone was over there, went on over there, they didn't see it.
To expose people.
Well, if they saw someone swinging from the chandeliers, they wouldn't bag him when they'd sort of talk about you. Yeah.
That was a code of protection,
well, it was.
I suppose,
well, sometimes you go in the bar and Bill Morty and them are standing like that and you're saying, what's the matter? And they say, I've got to write a story and I can't think of anything to do. I said, what about me? What about? I said, tell them my hamstring's playing up. So you don't mind?
So you work with them, yeah.
So for about 3 days, they'd put McCarthy's hamstrings now 50%, now it's 75%, you know, and they respected you for it, you know. But not like these buggers now. Like they can't, if you urinate in the street, they can't wait to take a photo of you and give you up, and then want to shake your hand after it.
Changed. I think the world's changed too, but with
you know, it's too much sensationalism now. I mean, every week, what coach is going to get? You lose a game now, you're going to get sacked. Yeah. I mean, oh my God. Yeah. You know.
You did a bit of coaching.
I coached there. I coached up in Brisbane. I won a comp up there. I won the what's name comp with Brisbane. I coached Brisbane in the Panasonic Cup. I won a comp with South. Panasonic Cup with South.
An interesting one was you were the first coach of the Gold Coast Chargers or Seagulls? Or
no, they were called from the first cup, the Giants.
Giants, there you go. They've had some names, haven't they?
They had some names, we were the Giants. Johnny Sattler only went in because Sats took them over.
Right, so I was just
Peter Gallagher.
Thinking to be at the helm of a new club and then we're looking at Perth coming in shortly and then New Guinea. How difficult is it first up to put a team together and create culture and get things going?
Well, I had the Brisbane job before Wayne.
Brisbane Broncos.
I had that.
Yeah.
Yeah. My manager is Wayne Bennett. Wayne Bennett's manager, Bruce Hatcher. Mm-hmm. That's in charge of the QRL now. Yeah. He was an accountant up in Queensland. He was my accountant. He was Wayne's accountant. Anyway, Gary Balkan, who had the South Brisbane Hotel, the big pub up there, had all the money.
So we're talking 88 when the Broncos were to come in?
Yeah. Well, Gary was with me at South. He got me up there to coach South. We won all those premierships, you know. We won 12 premierships and all grades. And whereas before that, Harry Bath, Wayne Bennett, bloke from England, they never won a premiership since 1952. And I won, I think it might have been 11 or 12 out of all the grades. Yeah. Anyway, Gary got me up there. He gave me the 25,000. I think I was a year for 3 years. He had the big pub there in South Brisbane there. Anyway, Gary was one of the original owners of the Broncos. And he said to me, will you coach the Broncos? I said, oh, yeah. He said, because I knew it was Wally, Gino, Greg Dowling. Side was there. It's the old Queensland side. So yeah, I'll coach him. Anyway, he said, okay, you got the job. And I had to meet Porky Morgan, one of the bloke that sponsored the movie Crocodile Dundee, put the money in for that. Yeah. I had to meet him down on the river there, that park there, Brisbane there.
Yeah.
It's that park there.
Yeah.
And there's a little restaurant there, cafe. I had to meet him there before he got a flight to Sydney.
Yeah.
And he said to me, "How are you going to handle Wally Lewis?" And I said, "No, I got no worries to worry." I said, "We won the comp last year." I said, "No, no worries." He said, "Okay, you got the job." That afternoon, Bruce Hatcher rang me up and he said, "You sure you got this job?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Porky Morgan then verified it this morning." He said, "Well, I look after Wayne Bennett." And he said, "He's got it." So I said, "I'll ring you back." I rang up Gary Bork and I said, "Mate, what's happening?" He said, "Oh, he wouldn't believe it." He said, "Porky's bumped into Jack Gibson at the airport." And he said, "Who would you have out of McCarthy and Bennett?" He said, "Oh, Macca's, Jack didn't get on."
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, Macca's, could be." And
So he pulled the rug.
Bennett's already coaching him in Canberra. So he said, he's got it.
Talk about sliding doors, Bob. You could probably still be coaching today.
Well, I could be getting 1.2 million and getting as much as you a year.
You could still be coaching. You could be the Wayne Bennett. You could have 7, 8 premierships under your belt.
Yeah, so he wouldn't. A couple of weeks later, Peter Moores rang me up. And he said, "Oh, Bob, I got this new job. I'm the new CEO of the Gold Coast Mob." I said, "Oh, what do you know of Canterbury?" He said, I'll change it. What's that? He said, "I'm going to go up to Queensland, finish up there." And he said, "I've got 3 players for you. I've got Steve Mortimer, Chris Mortimer, and Steve Folkes." I said, "Oh, good." And then Sats rang me up and said, "Can you coach this mob for us?" I said, "I'm thinking about it, Sats." I said, "Mate, I'm on TV up here." I said, "I'm getting pretty good money and all that." I said, "I don't want to go back into coaching again." He said, "Well, do us a favour." He said, "We'll put a lot of money into this." Anyway, I said, "Oh, okay, I'll agree to coach." And then next day, Peter Moore rang me up and said, "Oh, Macker, I'm staying with Canterbury." I said, "What about Border and that?" He said, "No, they're staying." So I rang Sats up and said, "Who we got?" He said, "We got no one."
Yeah, right.
And this is about August, end of August. They said, "You got 2 months to put a side together."
Wow.
So we had to come down here and try and find some players, and we bought some players. You had to pay overs to get them, like Ronnie Gibbs and Chris Close. And funny thing with Ronnie Gibbs, when they made the appointment to see him, we met him down at the Hilton Hotel in the city there, opposite City Tats. And they said, offer him $250,000 for 3 years, I said, "Jesus, made of money." He said, "Oh, yeah, if we get him, we might get other players, So gone down there, met Ronnie, and I said to Ronnie, "Mate, there's $83,000 a year there for 3 years." And he went, "Oh, Bob," he said, "I'd like to help you out." He said, "But I won the comp last year of Manly. We'll win the comp again this year, and I'll get picked to play for Australia." And I said, "Mate, it's $83,000." I said, "You're only getting 40 now." And he said, "Yeah," he said, "but I'll get 83 next year. I'll get 83 and all that." And I said, "Well, all right, I'll have to give the $250,000 to someone else." He said, $250,000? Like the 83 didn't mean a thing to him, but the $250,000 did. And I said, "No, I knew I had him." Yeah. So I started reeling him in. I said, "Yeah, mate." I said, "You're going to have a $250,000. You'll be able to buy about 8 houses." Yeah. And all of a sudden we got Ronnie Gibbs.
Yeah. What was your first contract worth?
As a coach? Or
No,
as a player? Mate, I got $500 when I was 18 for 4 years. And after about 4 games, he said, "We want to see you in the boardroom." And I thought, "Oh, this is nice." I said to Judy, "I think they're going to take the money off me." Well, I think we won 1 and lost 3 games or something. Yeah. Anyway, she said, "Oh, they can't take the money off." I said, "Well, what do they want to meet me for?" So I've gone in the dressing room, gone in the boardroom, and I've never been to a boardroom before, and I've sat there and they said, "Look, Bob, we know you're playing well, but," and I thought, "Oh, here we go." The old butter up first. And they said, "We want to raise your money from £500 to £800 a season." Wow. And I went, and I was ready to attack, and then I thought, come back. I said, £800, that's for 4 years. And they said, "Yeah."
So you didn't have to extend, they just gave you more money?
Just gave me more money. I got up and I shook everyone's hand. Yeah. I remember walking out the door. They said, "You can go now." When I walked out the door, I looked back and I could see the smugness on their face, thinking we got in cheap. Yeah. But I felt like yelling out, "You silly bastards, I would have signed for nothing if you'd have asked me nice." Yeah. I was only 18, 19. I didn't know anything about money,
So, mate, you've captained Australia, you're in the Hall of Fame, you're an MBE, you've pretty much done it all. You must be pretty chuffed with the way. Yeah, I was head prefect at De La Salle, Surrey Hills. Altar boy, yeah. And an altar boy.
An altar boy,
You've done everything.
I've done everything, done a lot. Well, I'm guaranteed to go up there. Being an altar boy, you're guaranteed.
Are you?
So where you'll be going downstairs in the lift.
I was an altar boy.
I'm going upstairs on the altar boy.
I was an altar boy.
Oh, you're an altar boy too?
I was an altar boy.
Well, you'll be on the same lift as me.
Straight to the top.
Yeah. Alan Stevenson, he'll be on the one downstairs.
Without a doubt.
He'll be down there where all those fires are down there, putting out fires.
Bob, you must look back fondly on your life and your career and your contribution to rugby league.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been a great, I was lucky, finding Judy and all that, and then I had the 3 kids and got 7 grandkids and 2 great.
So your 2 boys, Darren and Troy, both played NRL?
Well, Troy played first grade union in Queensland when he was 17, I think he was. Yeah. Straight out of school.
He's a fullback?
A fullback for brothers.
Me,
for brothers, took after. Yeah, he didn't. He wasn't a chimer inner.
No.
He was a setter upper sort of.
Yeah. It's not easy to do.
No, well, chiming in, geez, you just got to pick your mark.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can get shortchanged and lose your head.
And Darren played at South and the Bulldogs?
Won a comp at the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's done well.
Yeah.
And my grandkids, they've come along good. And
so you watched the footy today?
I watched it, but it's a different game now.
Yeah.
They all play the same game, got different jumpers on. 3 forwards hit it up, backs ball, kicked at the big tall bloke in the corner, and start again. They've taken a lot of stuff out of the game, which is sad in a way. But they change the rules every week, which I can't comprehend.
If you had to pick one moment, what would be the highlight of your career?
Winning the first comp was. Yeah. When I was a kid going to school and all that, everyone said, "Oh, you're going to play for Australia one day."
Yeah.
Everyone said it. My coaches and all that, but no one ever said to me, "You'll win a competition with South Sydney."
Yeah.
And when we've done that, that was the greatest thing.
And you had you did it with your mates.
You done it with your mates.
So close, you guys.
Yeah, done that. And then we've post football. I was chairman of the Australian Selection Mob, New South Wales Mob. I was chairman of the judiciary.
Yeah.
Which is another story.
Done it all, giving back, eh?
Yeah, it was good. The old judiciary.
Yeah.
Sometimes when they'd bring their lawyers in, you thought, hello, I'm going to miss my favourite shows on TV tonight.
Yeah. We learned a lot today, Bob. I had no idea Mike Cleary was on top of the world once upon a time.
Well, he was on top of the world, yeah. Yeah, it would have been sensational, yeah.
Hey, mate, thanks so much for joining us today on Chiming In. It's been a pleasure.
No worries, Chimes.
Good on you, Bob.
Chiming in.
Thanks, mate.